how big is this weekend in the Big 12? I think this is a huge weekend because this is one of those weekends that happens every year in college football where we have very few big games. In fact, I don't think there is a game of consequence as far as the college football playoff goes, unless you look at two games in the Big 12. And I think that this Iowa State game with Texas Tech, that game's in Ames. This is a huge game for Iowa State. Baron Morton's going to play for Tech. I think it is really concerning. If you are Iowa State or you are an Iowa State fan, you've got to hold Texas Tech under 3 touchdowns. If this game gets into the middle to high 20s, I think there's a real chance that Iowa State doesn't have the firepower offensively to compete in a shootout, Abilene style, with Texas Tech. If this game is a 35-28, 35-31, Iowa State's going to lose this game. And I think that it is going to be very critical that Texas Tech goes to Ames and loses, because this is where the Big 12 dreams go to die. If Iowa State somehow finds a way to snatch a loss from the jaws of victory, this is going to be a tragic, tragic game. And make no mistake about it, as much of a critic as we have been about Joey McGuire on this show, and I have, when you are right offensively at Tech, they can score with anybody. And Baron Morton is healthy enough to play. You've got the best running back in the conference in Taj Brooks. The defense just has to be serviceable on some level. And Iowa State is not going to terrify you the way Abilene did. I think this game is a worrisome game if you're Iowa State. And then there's this game right here. KState at Houston. Notice the line is under 2 touchdowns in favor of KState. That was a little surprising to me. Jake, how worried should we be about Avery Johnson and KState?
Yeah, I mean, I think that KState is in a position here where this is a game that everyone assumes you're going to win this one. I mean, obviously you're on the road here, but it is Houston. Like, you're obviously better than Houston is without question. So I'm not. Yeah, the line's under 2 touchdowns, but I think that's more an indictment on K-State not being good enough to beat a team by 2 touchdowns currently. So I don't think they're going to be in any danger of losing this game, is my point. I think whether they cover or not is a different conversation, but you're beating Houston. I would be shocked if you didn't. The Tech Iowa State game is a different story. I think, I would agree with the opinion that if this is a mid-20s, low 30s game, Iowa State's going to be in trouble in this game. But I just have a lot of trouble thinking that the Iowa State defense is not going to be fully prepared against a Baron Morton-led offense where Baron is not 100%. That to me spells, probably a high 20s performance for Iowa State, but Texas Tech probably only getting to like 17 points, 20 points. So to me, I think Iowa State's going to win this game, but I do think if you're an Iowa State fan, you need to watch this game. Because the chance of this game going the wrong way is definitely higher. When you look at how these two match up, you look at Texas Tech's ability to score. You look at the fact that Iowa State's not some explosive offense. There's a fine line here. You're going to have to slow Baron Morton and that offense down. But if you do that, and you should be able to do that with the caliber of your defense, theoretically you should be fine. But I would agree with what he said. I don't think that it's just a gimme that Iowa State wins this game by like 10, 14 points. This to me is like a 1 possession, 7-point kind of game most of the way. And maybe you win by 10 in garbage time.
Yeah. And what worries you is the number 1 scoring offense in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Texas Tech. And the worst defense in the Big 12. Texas Tech. Right? So we know how we've seen this movie before.
And Thamel reported yesterday or tweeted yesterday that sources told him that Baron Morton looked strong in practice on Tuesday and is expected to start. So, I mean, it seems like based on the reporting that Baron, while maybe not 100%, is like maybe 80, 90%, which, again, lends itself to, hey, it's Tech's offense against Iowa State's defense. That's the game. Iowa State will score. That Tech defense is bad. It's going to be a matter of how much can you limit Texas Tech offensively. And by the way, yeah, I do think in the bigger picture conversation, Iowa State cannot lose this game.
They've played too many close games, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I worry that you're going to, like the 21-3 North Dakota game, or, 20-19 with Iowa. Okay, in-state rivalry game, but did you really play a 20-0 game with Houston? Did you really go 38-35 with UCF? And that game was in Ames, and UCF probably should have won that game. That's what worries me about Iowa State. And I'm a huge fan of Rocco Becht. I think we all have talked about this on the show. And I like Rocco a lot. But when you look at the numbers and you start looking at efficiency numbers, I think it should worry you that Baron Morton's numbers are while not significantly better, he's pretty offensively. Tech is much better than Iowa State.
Right.
More explosive. Obviously, when we talk about rushing numbers, I mean, Taj Brooks is, in my opinion, the best running back in the league. He's averaging 132 yards a game.
That's what I'm saying. These two are going to play this cat and mouse game all day long in this game, where it's going to be Tech's going to impose their will running the football. They're probably, I would expect, because of the caliber of the defense Iowa State has, you're going to see a lot more play action out of that offense. I think that's going to be a necessary ingredient this week playing. If you're Tech, you have to, like, it'll be crucial for Texas Tech as an offense to make sure Iowa State's defense is inside of 15 yards to the line of scrimmage. You have to bring them down into the box. And once that happens, that's going to open up the big shots. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. The game will be decided on, does Texas Tech run it better, or does Iowa State stop the run better? Because if Texas Tech's running the football and you're forced to come down, I'm telling you, you're playing with fire with this team. You should beat this team. Hear me clearly. They should beat Texas Tech. But I'm telling you, we've seen stranger things happen. We've seen, like, earlier this week, nobody's talking about, there was a bunch of reporting about how the Big 12 is this really, exciting conference. It puts out entertaining football. Not to say it's the best conference, not to say that it's better than the SEC or the Big 10, but when you watch a Big 12 game, you get a ton of lead changes, you get a bunch of points. And what I'm saying is Iowa State as a team does not want to be playing high-scoring football games. Iowa State as a team, generally speaking, would like to keep their opposition under 20 points so that all they need to do is score 24 points instead of 35 points. And that's where I think you get in danger in this game.
And I think Rocco's a big game quarterback. And I think he's a big moment quarterback. And we'll see. And I agree with this point right here. Houston has it in them to beat a big team, but didn't they just do that with Utah? And granted, Utah doesn't have the offense. I totally agree with that. K-State's a much better football team. Much better football team. And my confidence level, I am not as confident in Iowa State as I am in K-State.
Yeah.
I think K-State is just too physical for Houston.
Yeah, K-State's going to win that ball game. It's just going to be a matter of, are we talking about, win, cover, over with K-State and they score a bunch of points and it's a pretty smooth
huge
win?
Question.
Or are we talking about win, don't cover, under, and it's a tight game all the way to the end? And I think that's the type of thing where when K-State fan, because you all know, for those of you who watch the show every day, we've had our quarrels with K-State fan. K-State fan's going to tell you that they're going to blow this team out by like 25 points.
Monty, you guys hate Avery Johnson for no reason.
And I'm just telling you, if you're behind in this game at the half, if K-State is losing this game at the half on the road, you are playing with fire, bro. Because if you're behind, that means they've stopped the run. That means that you haven't been effective on offense, and you're having to figure it out at halftime, which is not where you want to be.
And Houston's interesting. We'll see. Houston, to me, while I don't believe that Houston's a good football team, I think they're improving. And Willie's having, growing pains.
Yeah.
But I think when you look at Zeon Chris is a development project. There's no doubt about that. They run the ball far more effectively than they pass it. And that is a way to lose games. Hello, K-State. How are you? When you run the ball far more effectively than you pass it, you are asking to lose games. And I think that is the issue for Houston, is they don't have teeth offensively. And it's mainly because, and you guys are going to think I'm crazy, but you look at Zion Chris, the guy's got 248 yards in total passing the entire season. That's probably not your recipe to win games. But what was his best game? TCU, 15 of 18, 141 yards.
Yeah.
And what did he do against Iowa State? Well, he didn't do much because that was the Donovan Smith era.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what you're dealing with at this point. I don't know. Houston's going through it. They're developing guys.
But again, that's my point. This is a game where upper echelon Big 12 team should dominate Houston. That's what should happen. What will happen, I think, is a very different conversation.
Yes.
I think we've seen teams, we all remember, I can't remember who Texas was playing last year. It might have been Houston, where they're on the road and it's a tight game going to the third quarter. And then Texas pulls away from them and imposes their will. I don't believe K-State has that ability as a football team right now. I think K-State, it is huge for them early in the game to get the running back room going. Like, Avery's always going to be able to run.
100%.
Like, Avery's going to do what Avery does. And he's as consistent as they come when it comes to his skill set. But if you can't run the football, K-State, I'm telling you that's going to be an issue. But hear me clearly. I expect them to win this game. I do not expect them to cover the 13.5 point spread. And I expect this game to be under. I don't think that this is some high scoring, shootout kind of game. I think the Tech Iowa State game is the one where you're like, hey, again, same line, Iowa State minus 13.5. But what's the over under number? 10 points more, 56.5.
I'm telling you, this is a game where I worry about if K-State is not leading the entire game, I'd be stunned.
Yeah.
Because Avery Johnson's not a guy that you want throwing the football under pressure. And I don't mean linebacker getting after the ass. I mean, hey, we need to throw the ball or we're going to lose the game.
Hey, we're down by 10 at the half because we look like garbage this week, and we need our quarterback to bring us back to life.
Yeah, that's what worries me, because even if you look at some of the lower ranked teams in this league, this is a quarterback league. And I know that's not popular to say that, but you start looking at some of the numbers in this league, and I'm talking about passing. Like, is Josh Hoover on the best team in the league? No. Is, Shedeur Sanders, Brendan Sorsby, Alan Bowman. I think you look at guys like, I wish Sawyer Robertson was more accurate. He's not. And they don't ask him to throw the ball a lot. He's under 200 attempts this year, and he's only completed 60%. But my point is, he's got 17 touchdowns and 4 interceptions.
Yeah.
This is a passer's league. And what worries you is that when you look at the bottom quarterbacks in this league, Donovan Smith, benched. Isaac Wilson likely has lost his job now at Utah. Jalen Daniels, that's one of the most disappointing quarterbacks in the league. Garrett Green in West Virginia. There are signs. Did you guys see the story that there have been billboards in Morgantown calling for Neil Brown to be fired?
Mike, what's the synopsis, dude? You live there. Like, what are you in that same? I know you said that yesterday that you were fire Neil Brown guy, but do you think most people agree with that?
Yeah. But my point is, I look at this league and I look at the best teams. Jake Retzloff, I think, is arguably the best quarterback behind Shedeur Sanders in this league right now.
Mm-hmm.
He is making play after play. I think Shedeur is by far, hands down, not close, the best quarterback in this league.
But look at the pressure on Iowa State in this game. Like, think about this for Rocco Becht. Like, your team has to win this game against Tech, because if you don't win this game, BYU is 1 win away here from cementing their number 1 status in the Big 12. So this is one of those games that I'm telling you, it's not lost on Iowa State what they're playing for. This isn't just, oh, well, are we going to win the ball game? we're in that part of the year. There's 4 weeks left to go
Yeah.
for most of these teams. Hey, are we going to win out and go to the college football playoff, or are we not going to do that? Like, that's what this is.
I know I do this every time we look at quarterback stats. Do you guys understand that Shedeur Sanders is 220 of 300?
Yeah. He's the best quarterback in the conference.
73.3% completion percentage, 21 touchdowns, 6 picks. He's averaging 324 yards a game.
And it needs to be said,
God
that's not all on Shedeur. Travis Hunter is a lot of that completion percentage stat.
That is. Neil Brown signs have been around since the offseason, really. Oddly enough, there was recently a keep Neil Brown sign. Most want him gone. Others like the character he has installed in the team and the program.
I was going to say, I felt like you guys showed a lot of fight.
Yeah. Yeah. Kim Coulter. Hello, Kim. If I'm an Iowa State fan, I simply throw it deep once every other possession because we can't cover you, Monty.
Agreed. I don't disagree with that assessment.
And it's been tough. We have a lot of Texas Tech fans on this show. And the maturation of the thought process and the way that the Texas Tech fan has matriculated down the field on has been less than awesome to watch.
Yeah,
because
they caught the punt at the 20 at the start of the year, and we're at like the 30-yard line on Fire Joey on the other side of the field.
I think Tech fans are moving in that direction. And I know a lot of dudes there that put money into that program who are not Joey fans anymore. I think Joey had the entire world in the palm of his hand to start the season. He was fine.
Yeah.
We'll see. Team JPC, just a daily reminder that Sawyer Robertson has a top 10 QBR nationally and leads the Big 12 quarterbacks in touchdowns during conference play. That in a bag of what does that matter?
He's not a member. Move on.
What does that matter?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Boyd Lake, you don't think that IW is starting against BYU?
Isaac Wilson.
Isaac Wilson. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I mean, Witt's been non-committal for the last probably. I mean, hell, he was non-committal last week.
I was talking to a Utah player on DM who was telling me they don't know. And it's there is a significant level of frustration with the decision-making Isaac Wilson has shown at Utah. Some of the throws, and I've heard this for the last couple of starts that he's had. Some of the decisions he's made are inexplicable. And a lot of it is he's young. He was never supposed to be the starting quarterback this year. He's a true freshman. And the conversation inside the walls at Utah football is, are we just going to live with this? Because if they yank him now, he probably is done at Utah. It's going to be awfully difficult to sell him back to the team.
Right.
Which is why Kalani stuck with Jake Retzloff last year. And I think Isaac Wilson's in a really tough spot. He does not have a lot of he is Zach Wilson with the Jets. He does not have a lot of leeway.
And I just don't think that Brandon Rose is some amazing QB. I mean, there's a reason he was on the bench.
Yeah, but he's shown you a lot.
Well, I agree. He's the guy. He's the choice. I don't think this is really a conversation. He gives you the better chance to win.
Isaac Wilson was one of the top quarterback recruits in the country.
But again, that's a recruit. That's not somebody who's coming,
But a year ago, he was in high school.
Yeah.
He was one of the top recruits in the country. And for Kyle Whittingham to win that recruiting battle with a quarterback, now legacy player, parents are Ute fans, totally get it.
Yeah, we get it.
But to have that quarterback go to Utah and fail, yeah, they're thinking about that as well. Because this is a program that has not routinely had prolific passing attacks. And it's why you don't have elite skill position players. And now Money Parks is out for the year, which is a big blow to that offense. you don't often get elite quarterback talent in the out of the high school ranks. And now Isaac Wilson has shown up. He's played. He's failed. And what does that say to every other quarterback in the pipeline?
Yeah. I don't want to go to Utah. And what does it say to BYU as we head into the Holy War? Utah doesn't have a way to win the football game.
I think that's correct. UW fan Jim, there will be fire Brown after Baylor beats them. I think that if I wouldn't be so confident, and this is my opinion. I think that if I were Baylor, and Baylor is -3 against TCU, coming up on, what is that, Saturday night. I'm warning you in Waco that if Dave keeps winning games, he's going to keep his job.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for you if that's the case. I think, obviously, like what's going on in Stillwater? Where's Force Ghost Fabio, the resident Oak State homer? What are Oak State fans saying today? What are UCF fans saying about Gus Malzahn?
Yeah, I'm not sure that you can pick Oak State to beat ASU.
In fact, I don't think you can. We'll see what Scadaboo looks like. Like, what does his health look like? But you really think that Oak State's going to stop the run against Arizona State?
No.
I think there's a chance. An Oak State fan, you tell me if I'm wrong. I think there's a chance they don't win another game. Because that game against TCU's in Fort Worth, Texas Tech in Stillwater, and then you got to go to Colorado. I don't think they're going to win another game. Yeah. Will they go winless in the Big 12? Will Oak State go win that? Listen, dude, say that out loud and just see how bad you feel. Like, ooh. That's brutal. Yeah. That's rough. That's not let's see. Who else? Mad Cat. Good morning, Mad Cat. How are you? Morning, Monty Crew. Loner Phone. Texas Tech complaining about headset tampering to listening by TCU Baylor. I don't think nobody has alleged that other people were listening. You read that story, and I think this is really important. They don't know the story. The Big 12 returned all of their coach, quarterback, linebacker communication equipment because there were concerns about the firmware, the security of the communication. And immediately people leapt to, oh, well, there were stealing. No, there's nobody alleging that cheating was part of it.
Sign stealer guy.
Nobody is alleging that. And what's remarkable is, and I know I'm just little old Monty over here.
Old Monty.
So you bought headset communication devices that didn't have firmware installed? That were not secure? Really? How's that possible? I don't know why we're dialing up, but how is that possible? Like, this was supposed to stop cheating and sign stealing.
Right.
And you bought headset equipment that didn't have firmware installed. That's what's crazy to me. That is what is crazy to me. That's wild. Habitual. Who's going to get Connor Wigman in the portal? I don't know. Is this going to be the most... Who's going to get Ollie Gordon in the portal? Is this going to be the most difficult year for for some teams in the portal coming up? Because I was reading, what did Mike Elko say about what? Here it is right here. Mike Elko said, I've said this to Connor. I've said this to Marcel. I've said this to every quarterback I've ever talked to. Me and the quarterback, we walk toe in toe in getting way too much credit and way too much blame for everything that happens. And that's just the nature, evolution of it all. And so anytime the offense isn't functioning, all eyes immediately go to the quarterback.
It's true.
I think that if I'm Mike Elko, I would have done the exact same thing. Because I I'll go back to my original point. Is Texas A&M truly elite? Because everybody's got their swole on below the waist and it's like, oh my God, A&M.
What's an erection?
Number one in the SEC, Marty. But they've had some interesting situations. Mainly that Marcel Reed went 2 of 2 for 70 yards, and all of a sudden he's the starting quarterback. And Connor Wigman has Connor been bad this year? He hasn't been. But trust me when I tell you, if you're going to go 12 of 30 for a hundo against Notre Dame and you're going to lose, you should be looked at. And when you are averaging about 200 yards a game and you're completing 56% of your passes, shouldn't we be looking at you as part of the problem on offense? I think that you should be, because he's only been sacked 7 times. So it's not like he's under immense pressure all the time.
Right.
The other issue is, but he's got 20 touchdowns. No, he's got 3 and he's got 4 picks. What, like, is this at all controversial? And this is what I didn't understand out of Aggieville, where people are like, oh my God, who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Like, and I saw how controversial this was with Mike Elko. It's not controversial. Right. And I guess, and I know everybody that watches this show thinks we're an SEC show. So let me just back that up for you. If you're in the SEC and your quarterback's got 3 touchdowns and 4 picks and we're going into November, you're not good.
Right.
Make a quarterback change.
Yeah, no duh.
Right. Do you really think that Carson Beck could have his job if he was averaging 200 yards,
Quinn Ewers, bro.
3 touchdowns and 4 picks? Quinn Ewers almost losing his job at Texas. Like, this is the SEC, goddammit. Like, we're not playing games.
Yeah. This
is life and death. Well, you're literally playing games, but I'm not playing games, boy.
You know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying, like, look at the orgy happening at Michigan. I would agree. What's his name retired, by the way?
Jack Tuttle.
Jack Tuttle retired. Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
5th concussion.
He did what Tua should have done.
Well, no, Tua should never have gotten into the NFL with his broken hip, and Jack Tuttle shouldn't have kept playing football. God, Michigan sucks, and I'm here for it.
Yep.
Did you guys see that Michigan is trying to steal a recruit at quarterback? This is, and here's the ultimate irony for Michigan. Michigan is trying to flip a recruit from, I believe it's LSU. And so now Carter Smith, who is one of the most sought after quarterbacks in the country, was on the verge of enrolling at Michigan in December for early enrollment. He's now decommitted from Michigan because they went after this guy at LSU. And his dad has pretty much hinted that he's going to Penn State. Now, I would encourage him to not drop the soap at Penn State. Oh, wait, Micah Parsons doesn't go there anymore. My point is, Michigan's going to lose one of the top quarterback recruits in the country to Penn State now. Watch the name. Carter Smith. Decommitted from Michigan. Is this bad on Michigan's part? Because they're going after, but they are going after the number 1 quarterback in the country. If you lose Carter Smith, the number 3 dual threat passer in the class, he's a really good quarterback. But if you lose him and you land, the kid's name from LSU is Bryce Underwood. If you land Bryce Underwood, was it worth it?
Yeah, it was.
I think it was. But and here's my question. If you're Bryce Underwood, and I know this is all about money.
And cheeseburgers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kids were hungry. They've got to eat.
Yeah.
But if you don't get Bryce Underwood, do you fire Sharon Moore on the spot?
No, because he's still got to take the beating from the NCAA.
And I get it. Underwood is from Detroit, a suburban Detroit. And he's been committed to LSU for about a year. Why are you waiting so late to do this? And you're probably this Underwood kid is going to get $5 million a year in NIL guarantees. And here's the part where I say his dad probably is lying through his dentures. They're like, oh, well, the money's not that important, Marty. We want to win too. Then you wouldn't be talking to Michigan. I understand it at LSU. You only play night games in Death Valley at home. They never play in the afternoon. We totally understand. We totally
America's team.
We totally understand it. Shocker. Another night game for LSU at home.
Right.
I love you, Lane. But
he's got no class.
Would you really take Michigan over LSU if you're the number one quarterback
No.
recruit in the country?
No. Nope. Not given their current situation.
I don't think he's going to Michigan. I truly do not. Anyway, Tanner Plumer. Wait, I thought you guys were an FCS show. My whole life has been a lie. Exactly. North Dakota State's own Monty program. Right?